Good morning. Today I have a lot of beef to cut up, and I thought that would be a good opportunity to show where different meat cuts come from. It's a question I get asked quite often when I go to farms and kill animals, or even from other clients, and they say, what do I get out of a beef? And so I'm going to show you what you get out of a beef. Here we are. We start with a front quarter, or a forequarter, as it is called. Meat cuts, I'm going to explain here, are Canadian. Almost every region in the world has different names for one and the same cut, but here, for this purpose, we're going to use Canadian meat cuts because it is made in Canada, and I do work in Canada. So we start, like I said, we're going to start with the front quarter here, and I'm going to turn it around. So here, that's the carcass that has been aged for 2 weeks now, and all the animals I slaughter will be aged between a week and 3 weeks. How long they can be aged depends on the condition of the carcass. A carcass like this one, who has decent fat cover, can obviously be aged much longer without losing too much meat than one of them that has no fat cover. So let's get started. Here, this is the neck here, and that usually gets put all into ground beef or sausages. And then here we have the chuck. All of this here, that's called the chuck. It's the shoulder of the animal. And right in here is the shoulder blade. Right here is a big bone, a flat bone. So here we have several options. With the chuck, we can make stew meat. We also can make some excellent roasts out of here. And right in here is a muzzle, which is called the flat iron. That makes beautiful braising steaks. Then here we have the foreshank. The foreshank usually gets the bone and put in ground beef or in sausages. Sometimes customers want them cut into little discs, the whole thing, so like an inch thick or 1.5 inch thick, and they put that in a soup or slow cook it in the oven. It's a really nice cut to put in the oven. Slow cooking, of course, with vegetables and so, absolutely delicious. I'm going to turn the carcass around, and here is your brisket. Not much needs to be said for a brisket. Everybody knows what a brisket is. It's a very nice tasting, beautiful roast. You either can roll it or flat. You can make it in the oven, in the slow cooker, or even better, marinate it and smoke it if you can. Slow smoke it till it falls apart. Absolutely delicious meat. Then here, the meat section is the short ribs. The short ribs, we can either cut 3-inch strips and cut them between the ribs, and then we end up with short rib squares. They too, slow cooking, or in the oven, or on in the smoker, on the grill, but slow and steady, and till they fall off the bone. Absolutely nice to eat and delicious. Then we have that section here left. The neck is off, so all this section, that bit here about to here, 4 ribs up to here, that is your prime rib. The prime rib too, we have many different options. Makes a very good steak. If you leave the bone in, it becomes a prime rib steak. If you take the bone out, it becomes a ribeye steak. We also can make a standing roast with this one. That means you leave the ribs in for you, and cut it, of course, to the size you want, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, however big your family is, or for what occasion you want the roast. Absolutely delicious steaks here. It's one of my favorite steaks that comes out from the primary. Then down here, this section here is the cross rib. Most of the time we take the bone out of the cross rib, tie it into a nice roast, or makes also very nice steaks. So this is about one thing. Oh yeah, here, like I said, we can make stew meat out of that, or the smaller version of stew meat in Europe is called goulash. It's very, very good for this. So I'm going to put this forequarter away and we move on to the hind quarter. So here we have our hind quarter. That's what they look like when they hang before we debone them. That's the back side of the animal. And here is where most of the expensive meat comes out of. That has a reason, because here the quality of the meat is different than in a forequarter. Here the meat tends to be more tender, and therefore gives you a lot more steak meat, pan frying or grilling steaks. The reason for that is because the animal uses the front to move. So the front of the animal, think of it like a front wheel drive car. The front is what does all the work. The front is what crawls uphill or brakes when an animal walks downhill. The back legs basically just follow the front. It's the front that does all the work. Therefore, the muscles work more, and therefore the muscles are a little bit tougher on the front than they are on the back. So here is a nice little piece of meat, very thin. It's the flank, and we usually just put that all into ground beef. In Europe, this, for example, at least during my childhood, when I lived there, this used to be a soup meat. You could buy that very cheap by the butcher, and then mother would cut it up in big chunks like that and throw it in a nice healthy soup. In the winter, nothing better than that. Inside here, when I lift that flap up, we have the flank steak. It now becomes very popular again. This is a very nice piece of meat that can be pan fried in the oven or slow cooker, even grilled. But to pan fry and to grill, you have to marinate it. And if you look it up on the internet, there's loads of good recipes about that. Here we have another little steak hidden right here. It's equal to the flank steak. It's called the loin flap steak. And also very, very, very nice meat to eat. Under the fat cover here, we have the tenderloin. Everybody knows what a tenderloin is. It's the most expensive cut of an animal, because you can see there's not much. It's just short. I leave all the fat on when I slaughter the animals to protect the tenderloin from drying out when we age the beef in my cooler. The fat, of course, is cut off. Everything is used of the animals. The bones are made for dog bones, the bigger femur bones, and so we turn into soup bones, provided the customer wants them. The fat is rendered and turned into lard for cooking. A lot of people cook with that stuff. It's very nice. And there is just pure nature. There is no additives in it, and what you get with the commercial bought stuff. So then moving on around here, we have the outside round is here, that bit here, and that mainly makes roast, but we also cut it into stir fry. And stir fry by us is thinly sliced meat and then sliced again, so you end up with very thin strips. Goes very good for a quick meal, quick frying or whatever, roast, stew, and yeah, stir fry. Then here we have a muscle. In some places they call it the false fillet because it looks similar to the tenderloin when it's cut out. And this makes braising steaks, roast, or a lot of customers of mine want this cut in stew. Then here is the inside round, that muscle here, that's the inside round, and that's where here in Canada the famous baron of beef comes from. And makes a beautiful, beautiful roast. It gets cut in the size the customer wants, and then it gets tied and beautiful. Also makes steaks. Round steaks come from here. And here we have another muscle buried under here. That's the knee joint here. It's the kneecap sitting right here. And then here we have a muscle, and that's called the loin tip. Loin tip mostly used for roast, but also in some occasions they want to have cut into steaks for also, again, a braising steak. Then moving down, we have the hip here, or the rump, and that's where the sirloin here in Canada, we call it the sirloin down here, comes out of it, and in some other places, hence the name rump roast or rump steak, because it's the rump of the animal, the tail comes out here. And moving on, down here is the loin, the actual loin. With the saw, with the knife I cut in here, and then with the saw I cut down to the ribs out here. And with the loin we have several options. Either we make a real expensive roast out of it, when you have to buy it in the store, or it gets cut here, and then I can leave the tenderloin in, and we make porterhouse and T-bone steaks out of it. That means the tenderloin stays in, the bone stays in, and together that becomes the T-bone or the porterhouse steak. The difference between the T-bone and the porterhouse is further back here, it's called, the first 2-3 steaks you get out of it is called the porterhouse, because the tenderloin goes like this, so back here it's very thick, you get a lot of meat, it's called porterhouse, and the thinner it gets, it becomes the T-bone steak. Take the tenderloin out, and take the bone out, and we have a New York loin strip steak or a loin strip roast, whatever the customer wants. So that's in short what you get out of a beef. Just briefly, when you, from this as it hangs here, we have waste. There's some waste, like tannins, fat, excessive fat and so forth. There is always some waste. So when a carcass comes in like this, you end up with about 70 to 75% edible meat. The rest is waste. So, and some people, they see a cow or a pig in the pasture, and they think they get that weight back. No, but by slaughtering the animal, you lose about 45% of the animal's live weight. Then it comes in here, and then you lose again. So overall, from a cow that weighs about 900 pounds, you get back about 300, 400, 500 pounds of meat. The rest is waste, slaughter waste, and then beef cutting waste. So, you know, as a butcher of now almost 50 years, I still enjoy what I'm doing, and it fills me with enormous pride to give for my clients the best product I can. And there is nothing better than meat that's good cared for by the farmer when he raises the animal, and then is good cared for when he comes here in the store. It's something I'm very passionate about, and yeah, you know, to give the customer or the client the best quality meat. And if you have an animal to process and you don't live in my area, always look for a professional butcher. Don't go to a backyard butcher that does it in the garage. Go to a trained butcher who understands the trade, and you will be assured to get the best quality product. With that sausages he makes, and we can make many other meat products, so not just steaks and roasts. There's loads of options, too many to mention here, what you can do. Meat is versatile. To a trained butcher who understands his trade, there is really no limit what he can do with meat. And all of it will taste equally beautiful. Meat is a healthy, nutrition food that's very good to eat and very tasty. So I hope you enjoyed this information I provided there. If you do, please subscribe to our channel, and if you want to see how meat is further processed from the carcass, I have some videos down here in the list where you can look up deboning a hind quarter and so forth. And we will constantly add new videos. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.